So we're sitting here in Topeka with a load of dried fruit, getting ready to head over to Hutchinson. Now, Hutchinson, based on the achievement that we were looking at a couple episodes back, is very much known for its salt mine and salt industry. So I do have to wonder why we're bringing dried fruit there. I know that, with vegetables, you take a nice cucumber and cut it up and sprinkle a little salt over it, and it's really tasty. Peanuts, any nut product, obviously, is improved with salt. Potatoes, improved with salt. Most things are improved with salt. But fruit, dried fruit with salt, I just don't see it. But, maybe I'll try it at some point, see how it is, report back. Otherwise, I'm just gonna chalk this up to some game weirdness, because we're bringing the fruit to Salt Town. So let's go ahead and get out onto the road and start on this adventure. So I will say that when I was reading up on Hutchinson, I like to read a little bit ahead of time on the places I'm going. I actually learned quite a bunch of interesting things about this beyond, even beyond the salt industry there. So as we get a little bit closer to town, I'm going to have some very interesting things to talk about when it comes to Hutchinson. I do have a correction to put up about the last episode. One of the viewpoints we hit was for a place called the Bazaar Cattle Pens. And I hadn't really researched that at all. And I was just, I was just chit-chatting about what I thought it might be based on the name. And the word bazaar is another word for kind of like maybe a flea market or an open-air market where you would buy and sell goods. And so based on the name Bazaar Cattle Pens, I kind of figured that it was going to be a place where cattle were held before being auctioned off, like people would go there to buy cattle. That was completely wrong. Bazaar is actually the name of the town that place is located at, and it has nothing to do with, it does have to do with cattle, they are cattle pens, but it doesn't have anything to do with auctions or anything like that. What this is I guess maybe somewhere in the 5 to 10 years ago range, the government in that area, the municipality, I think, bought the land from a farmer who owned it. And what they did was they turned it into like a tourist attraction. They built this overview, like a scenic overlook right off the highway. And so people will stop off at this place to look at the cows. And it's a big tourist attraction over there. So I'd never heard of such a thing, and I thought that was very cool. Much better story than my, my on-the-cuff made-up thing about, holding pen for cattle to be auctioned off. So, better story. And I would like to, if I ever get out to Kansas again sometime, my brother lives in Missouri, so maybe the next time we're out there visiting, maybe I'll take a swing over there to take a look at the Bazaar Cattle Pen, because it sounds fascinating. So, as we're heading outside of town, let's talk a little bit about Topeka. Topeka is not quite as interesting on the as Hutchinson is, but there was some pretty cool things I learned about it. The first one that was a little surprising is that Topeka is actually the capital of Kansas, which I didn't know. I kind of figured Kansas City was the capital, but it's not. It's Topeka. So it makes it kind of like New York, where New York City is not the capital of New York. The capital of New York is actually Albany, which is a smaller town north of New York City. So I thought that was kind of cool. As far as what it's known for, since it's the capital, most people there are working for the government. There is a lot of there's a lot of retail industry, a little bit of manufacturing, and some financial stuff. Hutchinson, on the other hand, is quite interesting. I did end up going down a little bit of a rabbit trail as I started to read up about it. So, because of the achievement, as I'd said earlier, I kind of figured it's like, oh, well, obviously they're a salt town, salt mining town, and they are. But I learned some other interesting things along the way. So salt is the primary industry over in Hutchinson, and the first salt deposit was discovered in 1887. And the way that they originally extracted that salt wasn't through mining, but through a process called evaporation, which, evaporation is... Oh, that was that. That was interesting. A little hiccup in the game. What's going on here? Huh, it's twice. Anyway, so evaporation. And the way that works is they basically pump water into these brine wells. Brine is like basically salty water, and then they heat it up and they evaporate the water off, and you're left with salt at the end, which and that is the whoa, that was close. That's the primary way that they get salt out of there. The first salt mine wasn't started until 1923, and it is the only salt mine. Even to this day, there is only one salt mine in Hutchinson. As much as it's a salt town, there's only one mine. That salt mine, as I said, is still in operation now. It is being run by the Hutchinson Salt Company. Say that 5 times fast. And yeah, still operates today. Other salt companies that work out of Hutchinson that have factories there are Cargill, which I've never heard of Cargill before, but Morton Salt. Morton Salt is it's a brand that anyone who goes to the grocery store has heard of. You see them on the shelf every grocery store you go to. But they don't have mines. They do the same evaporation technology that they were doing back in 1887, although I'm sure they're doing it a lot more efficiently. So what was that? Loan payment just made? Great. Now, one of the interesting things I learned as I was reading through this is that these salt mines, as they are completely extracted, as they get all the salt out, what they've done is they've built vaults into these mines. And in these vaults in Hutchinson, they store lots of different stuff. But the interesting stuff that I found was that they store the master copies of television shows and movies. Those are sort of the original printings, the original film. And some of the movies, particularly, that are stored there are things that I would think most people here have heard of. Particularly Wizard of Oz is being stored there. Gone with... Oh, shoot. I gotta get over. Gone with the Wind is stored in there. And the Star Wars movies. Or at least the first Star Wars movie. I don't think it said anything past the first one. But I thought that was amazing that the originals for these 3 huge films, I love all 3 of them, they're all amazing, are being stored in old salt mines in Hutchinson, Kansas. Fascinating. And we have just discovered Hutchinson, which advances our Discover Every Town achievement by 1. Just up the road in another mile or so, we are going to also hit a viewpoint for this area. I figure it's going to be a viewpoint for the salt industry, maybe. We'll see. And then we'll, of course, advance the live event by making a delivery to Hutchinson, advancing that one more town as well. So some good achievement advancement happening today. All right, and we are approaching the viewpoint for the area. Let's see what we're gonna get out of what happened. There we go. All right, let's see what we've got to show us. Elevators in Hutchinson. Oh, all right, well, that doesn't have anything to do with salt. That's interesting, but evidently Hutchinson's also got elevators. So, all right, well, we can talk about these a little bit because we saw these back in Kansas City. I talked about them a little bit. And what they are is grain elevators. They are these massive silos, grain silos, and inside these humongous tubes, big giant cylinders, they're full of grain. And they're called grain elevators because they're so tall. As you can see the size of those monstrosities, you need elevators to get up to the top of them. And actually, it looks like they got quite a few of them around there. And that was the salt mining area right there that they just showed. But yeah, look at them all. There's a lot of these grain elevators. So I don't know if there's a lot of farming right around Hutchinson and they're storing grain here. But evidently that's a big deal here as well, besides salt. So one more interesting thing about Hutchinson. It's full of surprises. And we've arrived at the picket. So the picket doesn't seem like a salt place. So I guess my entire narrative of salted fruit has been disproven. But, I got to tell you, I really kind of like that story. I'm going to stick with it. We're going to pretend that this is a salt facility and that we're dropping this fruit off to be salted because, darn it, I just like that story so much. We're going to go ahead and straighten this out, though, and that parking doesn't look too bad. We should be able to just get this straightened out, and there we go. All right, let's see how we do here. We might have this. We'll see if it's going to give it to us. I think we might be a little too far over. Yeah, we'll have to pull forward and get it a little further, a little bit closer to the edge there. And there we go. I had to go back and forth a few more times than I was hoping, but not too bad. Not the best, but not the worst parking by far. I'm pretty sure that beats 7 minutes. All right, let's take a look at how we did. We have done an excellent job. Looks like a couple of achievements popped up over there. All right, so we've got ourselves $6,000, 419 XP. That's not a real lot. Not even halfway to level 7, but not too bad. So that was a pretty fun little adventure. If you enjoyed it, I would ask you to please like, subscribe, hit the notification bell on there. It really helps small channels like me to grow and to start to reach a wider audience. And until next time, this is Ken with Covenant Gaming saying see you on our next adventure.